Who would win in a fight, Hela or Thanos? Her footsteps echoed loudly, echoing through the vast hallway, where the darkness was almost complete, dispelled only by the light emitted by Gungnir in her hand. The space felt abandoned, as if it had been abandoned for a long time. Where have all those damn cowards gone, she thought? Memories of the dwarves who had knelt before Odin flashing through her mind. They had begged for his protection, mercy, and favor, things that made her want to kill them on the spot. Odin had intended to do the same, but he had realized that they had value, that they could serve his own purposes. So he kept them as pets, not unlike what her grandfather had done before. And when Odin gave her Mjolnir, she had to admit, the dwarves were indeed talented at making weapons. As time passed, she had outgrown the little toy her father had given her, and even Odin himself not long after. The dwarves, too, had no value to her. A sudden sound tore through the silence, echoing in the darkness, pulling her from her thoughts. Her eyes narrowed in alarm, and she raised Gungnir, letting the spear's light shine deeper into the darkness before her. Her father had said that the forges of Nidavellir never grew cold. Not once had the dwarves conquered the heart of a dying star and turned it into their own power. But now, as she stood in this void, it seemed as if the heart had truly died and the dwarves had ceased to exist. Instead, there was only chaos. From the darkness, a giant figure suddenly charged towards her at terrifying speed, giving her only a moment to prepare for a reaction. The creature slammed into her, knocking her to the ground and knocking Gungnir out of her grasp, far out of reach. A fierce roar rang out from the giant figure, defiant and ferocious. It raised its giant fist high, ready to strike down with enough force to crush her on the spot. She clenched her fists, using her strength to knock the giant creature off its feet, and threw it straight into one of the long-extinguished forges. Its massive body slammed into the giant forge, before falling to the ground with a painful groan. "Stop that pathetic whining, you big thing. Tree, was it? Wasn't that your name?" The giant creature, clearly a dwarf, slowly sat up, still groaning. Looking at him, she felt more frustrated than ever. She should have wiped out his kind long ago. He used a large fist to rub his head, staring at her with a blank expression, not unlike the clumsy animal she once knew. "Eitri, that's my name. Eitri," he began, his voice cracking, laced with despair. "Oh yes, it makes no difference. But to tell the truth, it's an unfortunate name," Hela replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm, before the dwarf cut her off. "But who? Who are you? You wield Gungnir, what? Does no one remember me? I am Hela, your queen." "You foolish creature," Hela shouted, her sharp eyes glaring down. Eitri's eyes widened in shock. "Hela," he gasped. "But Odin banished you, ... Yes, Hela smirked, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "but now he's dead, and it's a good thing, because now I am ... But where is Thor? Thor could ... What could Thor do?" Hela roared, cutting him off. "Defeat me? Imprison me? Kill me? I killed him along with our half-brother, all their friends, the entire warrior population of Asgard, and even half of its troublesome citizens. And if you interrupt me again, I will take your foolish head." Hela took a deep breath, trying to calm herself and remind herself that her presence here had a purpose. "Okay, where were we? Ah, yes, your queen." Her voice was low, authoritative. "While I was ruling Asgard and planning my next conquests, I noticed something strange. Half of my citizens suddenly disappeared. And to my knowledge, Asgardians never simply disappear." She walked slowly, her sharp eyes piercing the darkness around her. While reviewing Odin's old, boring books, Scourge made an interesting discovery. "It seems you offered to make a weapon for my father Bor long ago, but the stubborn old man refused. Later, when Odin ascended the throne, he begged you to create a weapon for him, and you did a prototype." She paused, her eyes glinting with pride. "That fake version, it's still in my inventory. A weapon of immense power, capable of wiping out anyone and destroying anything at the will of the wielder." Eitri stood still, his silver-gloved hands still clenched into fists at his sides. After a moment of silence, he spoke. "The glove. You can't..." "I don't need it," Hela said, cutting him off as she walked towards him, smiling dangerously. "I just wanted to know if you'd actually make one." Eitri gulped, watching her move closer. "Yes. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon and turn on notifications to see the earliest videos. Thank you." "Thanos, son of a Lars." Of Titan, Hela stood before Eitri now, her gaze commanding, and lifted his chin with one finger, forcing him to look at her. Her voice was cold, as sharp as a knife. "I don't need it, but it's still mine. It's Asgard's property." "So why did you give it to him?" Eitri choked, his voice shaking. He promised to free my people if I did it for him." His voice cracked, and tears welled up as he continued. "But then he killed them all. And Eitri raised his hand, trembling in the light. Only then did Hela realize a startling fact: he wasn't wearing a glove. Instead, his fist was encased in solid uru, the divine metal whose destructive power she knew well. "And so you have my weapon," Hela said in a bored tone. "I am disappointed, Tree. I no longer need your services. Asgard no longer needs your services." She let go of Eitri and turned to Gungnir and picked it up. "Scourge, open the Bifrost. Wait, ... You are going ... To go to him?" the dwarf asked, struggling to stand with a broken laugh. "Going to fight him? Ha 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 ... You can't ... You can't defeat him, Hela. They call him the Mad Titan." Hela turned on him in a rage, her horned crown expanding as blood pumped through her veins. She drove Gungnir through the dwarf, impaling him through the middle before grabbing his molten fist. "And they call me the goddess of death," she cried as she crushed Uru's metal fist to powder, the dwarf's dying screams echoing through the silent corridors of Nidavellir. The Bifrost dropped her in a field before a small hut, and in the doorway sat a purple giant, no gauntlet. Thanos, Hela thought. This must be good. The Titan watched her with piercing eyes but made no move to stop her as she approached, and showed no surprise at her sudden appearance. He sat there looking out over the world as if he had been expecting her. "So you sent them back to me," Hela called as she approached the hut. "My frost giant half-brother and those ungrateful citizens?" Frost giant? What was Odin thinking? Bringing such rude people? Hela chuckled, shaking her head as she approached Thanos. "I take it you want something more from me," the Titan said, his voice low and calm. "Only what is mine," Hela said cheerfully, standing 20 feet away from the Titan. "Since you gave me a gift, I thought I would ask you nicely. Furthermore, when you sent me my little brother, you did not send back what he stole from my vault. So I will take the rest of the stones as compensation. The stones are no one's property, and neither is the gauntlet. No one can wield such power." "Then why did you do it?" Thanos spoke, his gaze leaving Hela for the first time, lowered as if deep in thought. His voice, unlike his usual coldness, now carried an indescribable emotion. "I cannot escape my fate any longer. No matter how great the cost." Hela glanced at his scorched hand, a meaningful mark, and wondered if that was what he was referring to. Thanos continued, his violet eyes fixed on her. "The hardest choices require the strongest will." Hela raised an eyebrow, her tone cold and contemptuous. "Very well. I hate to test your will again. So give me my gauntlet and I will go, leaving you to your farming." She waved a mocking hand toward the barren plains she had just crossed. Thanos shook his head, calm but firm. "I do not have it, and I will not tell you where it is hidden. No one will use the gauntlet or the stones anymore." Hela, his words were like a flame that fanned Hela's anger. She ran a hand through her hair, and the majestic headdress with its sharp horns reappeared, radiating a deadly aura. Her voice was icy, murderous. "Very well, the game is over. Give it to me now, or prepare to die." The Titan merely chuckled and spread her arms wide, as if inviting her forward. Hela didn't need to be told twice. She swung her arms out, channeling her rage into a series of meter-long projectiles that hurtled toward the Titan, piercing his chest and torso, and piercing through. She watched in shock as the purple giant dissolved in a red mist, but it wasn't blood that spurted from him. He was dissolving. Realizing she had been tricked, Hela whirled around, trying to locate the Titan, as a giant gauntleted fist closed around her throat. She tried to pry open the chokehold with both hands, but no matter how hard she tried, the metal fingers wouldn't budge. "No one is stronger than the Power Stone," silly girl, Thanos chuckled. "It's terrifying, isn't it?" he asked her as she struggled to break free from his grip, feeling the darkness slowly envelop her as she struggled to breathe, her feet leaving the ground. The reality of being defeated, facing death and being unable to do anything? "I'm sure it is, even for a goddess of death." He threw his head back and laughed loudly, clenching his fists until he heard a loud snap and felt Hela go limp in his grip. What did you think of this fight? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all so much.